Hey, welcome back to another Disciple Making Parent video. So this is where Casey and I get to come together. We read the chapter and then we begin to pull out some big points and just begin to kind of discuss them and try to apply them.
Right.
Over these past 24 weeks that we've been able to have these videos, we've been able to really, it's actually helped us a lot in our own parenting.
Yeah.
And so that's the hope that we have for you as well, to join us in this conversation. So we want to hear from you. So if you want to add a comment down below and just let us know either if this was helpful, maybe not helpful, but also what are some other advice that you may have for us and maybe for everyone else of how do we best disciple our students
Right.
as they grow up from the time that they're born to actually their entire life. So after 18 doesn't mean they cut them off, but
No.
it's something that we're going to be looking at today. So the topic for today is this right here: is how do we equip our children to have God-honoring relationships? And so mainly it's going to be the conversation of friendships.
Friendships, right.
And so how do we do that? Because as a parent, we're always looking at who our kids are around, what relationships they're having,
Right.
and do they have a positive or a negative influence? And so that's going to be the topic of today. And we're going to kind of walk through and see how do we do that in a way that doesn't burn a bridge or break a relationship between us and our child, but also put them in a great position so that they can
Right.
continue to grow in their relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have to address, and just right off the top, is that friends, let me say that right, friends, influence friends to one direction or the other. And we know that maybe, but that's why it's so important to really talk to our kids about the friends that they have, the friends they're making. And, Patrick, maybe just because we're friends with someone doesn't mean that, we have to be intimate with everything and share everything. We can have friends that are in our school, friends that, or in the neighborhood. But one of the things we're talking about today, I think, is pressing into who's influencing you in your world. And that does start, we start making friends at an early age. Sometimes our children struggle at making friends. And so some of the things I just want to talk about, one is you obviously have to sometimes be a friend to have a friend. And that's what I know.
Wait, you have to do that? Is that how that works?
I think you do. And how do we do that?
Oh, yeah.
How do you help your child do that? And so this chapter points out one thing I thought was could be super helpful even for my own children. I haven't applied it yet, but I thought about it, is common things connect people as friends. Like there's usually something that you share, common interests.
Yeah.
Something comes up about maybe Fortnite and we start talking about it. Or if you're a girl, it's like, I don't know, shoes or, there's, and so when that happens, that's how you make a friend. That's how the friendships start, is there's a common thread between two of us that we find and we connect on that thing. And sometimes happens spontaneous.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think that it could happen in a way that, if your child is having a hard time developing maybe what you consider as a parent good friends or friends that you want, to think about what setting are they in, what are they doing, what are their likes and dislikes, because a lot of times, again, there's a common thread that they're going to find.
It's so interesting because, we're all relational. No matter whether we're introverted, extroverted,
Right.
We all love to be in community. And so that looks very different, though, from person to person, especially
Sure.
from child to child.
Right.
And as you mentioned earlier, we do have a different level of influence on the people that we're around, just like they have an influence on us. And so how close we let someone get really is something that we should guard. And so how to be a friend first. That's a pretty big principle to start off, just a baseline. And I think you have a really good point about we connect over the commonalities that we have in life. And so there's so many examples of this. And if you go to any elementary school, it's amazing just to watch. It's like the mall almost.
Right.
You're able to kind of people watch and see how people are interacting with one another.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great to see whether, hey, I connect with you because we're on the same basketball team, or I connect with you because we're on the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, or, I connect with you whether we go to the same church or we go to the same school or we like the same food. There's so many different things. Like I remember growing up, whoever had the best snack Oh man,
Best snack?
let's get buddy buddy because we connected over a snack.
Right.
Someone had fruit roll-ups or a Rice
Mm-hmm.
Krispie treat or
Mm-hmm.
whatever for lunch, and it's funny how we build relationships based on those things. But one of the things I think that we want to talk about today is what are we really connecting over? Like how we connect through those different avenues is important,
Right.
but there's also stuff deeper behind that really kind of brings up some more importance. And I
Right.
think this is where the influence comes into play.
Sure. Yep.
Is kind of like where do we sit in our values?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So helping our kids just really know those important things that we're doing as a family, I think would be the first place to start, right?
Yeah.
How do we talk as a family? What language do we use?
Oh, yeah.
What are the things that we value in our family? And also, I think as parents, the friends that we have over, the friends that we connect, the families that we connect with, they're influencing our children.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether
they
we,
are.
there may be times where we are not thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
What movies are we watching as a family, or what are the places that we go to? I also, as a parent, again, back to a parent, thinking about this, what are the things that you do that your kids oversee? Because I think that, again, that influences their decisions and it influences what they could be looking for in others. That really isn't about whether your child's outgoing or ingoing, but it's those values in your family that influence. Because, again, if a parent is sort of, I don't know, just disconnecting or in something, then maybe the child is going to disconnect and find a friend that's disconnected as well, and that's a common thread. And we see that a lot when we're just so busy as parents, and then all of a sudden we look up or stop for a moment and we're like, oh, when did you become friends with that person? What, and it's like that catches us off guard. But wait, one of the values in our family was it connecting? Was it being relational? Was it being kind to each other, spending quality time with each other, listening to each other? If we haven't been, and yet then our child finds friends that are somewhere else, I don't know. Again, I feel like that connects to those values. We've got to be cultivating relationships in our family that show our children how to cultivate relationships outside the family.
Yeah, I was, as you were talking about that, it kind of brought to my mind of where's the line when it comes to how much we're influencing the other person compared to how much they're influencing me.
Right.
So I just want to be honest with you. Like growing up, specifically in middle school and high school, we moved to a different area. And so it's kind of, new friends, new area. You just get to jump in and with both feet and trying to figure it out.
Right.
And the kids in our neighborhood, like in middle school, we were good. We connected well, so we kind of grew together.
Yeah.
But in high school, we kind of faded apart because some of the values began to come out that were different from family to family. And as I reflect on that, it was hard in the moment of trying to figure out, man, that was like my best friend. Why can I not hang out with them? Because my mom, or dad stepped in and said, hey, we're seeing these things happen in you that don't fit what our values are in our family.
Right.
And we're concerned about that. And so what we're going to do in their reaction in that was we're going to pull back some of the time that we're going to allow you to be with this group of friends, at least for now.
Yeah.
Because we see it taking such an effect on you. And I'm thankful that they made that tough decision because I see now where, some of those guys are that I hung out with. And I'm like, my parents really did protect me from a lot of things, that heartache that I would have had to go through if I was in that group and a part of these different things. But here's the hard thing is how do we evaluate it? Do we, because at that point it was almost like me with 4 other guys. And, I was the outlier at that point. And so how do we do that? Because it doesn't mean that we can't ever be friends with them or have those relationships.
Right.
But I think that also goes into kind of the idea of how close and intimate we be with these friends that we have.
Yeah, so one thing in the book kind of defined this. So I like that question that you've brought us to. And so it kind of defined it this way, is that we all need gospel friendships that are supportive friendships, but built around Christ, if that's what your family's values are.
Right.
And so, again, if you have a friend, never goes to church on a Sunday, or maybe not at all, but yet they're one of your good friends, is that one of the friends that you need to really be listening to, allowing them to influence your decisions in your life? As a parent, that's our job, is to be monitoring that. To me, that's what
Right.
I heard you said even about your parents, is they were watchful and mindful. And I also want to say this, that a lot of times as parents, I know this has become kind of popular, is that we want to be our child's best friend maybe. We want
Oh
to be
man.
our child's friend.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Yeah.
that we can monitor well, like you were saying for your
Mm-hmm.
parents, or what we're encouraging parents to do, if we're filling that role of the friend. We
Yeah.
want to be monitoring and encouraging our child towards friendships, and we ourselves as parents and adults find gospel, Christ centered, encouraging. And again, not that we can't have a friend that's not a Christian or
Yeah.
goes to church, but those friends are not, we're not allowing them to influence us and maybe pour into us, speak into us.
Yeah.
We've got to
Well,
be
they're
very
not the ones
careful.
that you completely go, oh man, this is everything I'm going through,
Yeah,
and like open up your entire heart to.
right.
So I think that that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And to kind of address the whole parent being a friend
Oh,
idea.
come
I
on.
mean, we've seen it, and I know I see it, and I just want to speak to that for just a minute because
Sure.
it's important, and it's something that I think is really harmful. Mainly because of the season in life that our kids are in.
Mm-hmm.
And when we begin to have that relationship too early,
Yeah.
the future of that relationship changes drastically.
Mm.
And so I do believe, I want to say this really on record, that there is a time where you can be a friend with your kid. But that is whenever relationships change.
Yeah.
Right now,
Later.
it's much later on.
Right, right.
Like I'll say right now, my parents and I, oh my goodness. Yeah, our relationship has completely changed.
Yeah.
And now it's more of like they speak into my life, I speak into their life, and we have that kind of a friendship relationship
Right,
now.
right.
But I'm married. I mean, I remember my senior year, I confessed a lot of things that I had been doing wrong, my own sins to them, and
Right.
that changed the relationship a little bit. In college, it changed and transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like because they were parenting and discipling whenever I was the first 18, maybe 20 years of life.
Right, right.
That to me, when I got older into those college years, or maybe even into college years, and especially going into marriage, I was able to go like I remember those times where they poured in or made those tough decisions that I didn't really agree with at the time, but now I look back and saw kind of the fruit of that. Like I hear story after story, and I don't mean to rabbit trail this, but of kids coming back after college and going, Mom, Dad, like I'm grateful that you did these tough things for me because
Right.
I now see the harm that it could have caused.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard thing for us parents is that we have to make those hard decisions now,
Right.
knowing that the fruit of that may not come till later.
Right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I know that that's a hard thing, especially maybe if we're speaking to someone that's already in that situation with their parent-child relationship. But the goal for us as parents is to influence our children to find friends that they connect with while we're finding our own friends that are our age, pouring into us. But I thought it was kind of, the book did a lot of defining of a friend. And so I just wanted to summarize some of those.
yeah, I think that'd be really good.
I think it's kind of cool. Sometimes we don't always know this. We already talked about you have to, be a friend to have a friend first.
Mm-hmm.
But a friend spends time, but does not smother. I thought that was really good because I know some people that kind of, man, they never leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, not necessarily that they're always at your house, but they're just, smother. And so I think, that's one just
It's
to
more
point
than
out.
being relational; it's being attached.
Yeah.
So,
So a friend is sensitive and considerate. I think that that's important.
yeah.
That kind of goes along with, I think one that's later is just sensitive and considerate is being willing to listen. I think a friend listens,
For sure. Listens first.
listens
I
first.
mean, that's what James talks about.
Right.
Be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think that principle plays into friendships and relationships in general.
I see that even in the elementary age.
Yeah.
One kid that's willing to listen to the other talk. I don't know if they always share a commonality, but it's like, oh yeah, I talked to, whoever today and it was great. And it was like, I just saw them listening. And there's some kids have a better ability to do that than others, but in adults, if you listen, you can build, friends very quickly because all of us sometimes just want to be heard out,
Mm-hmm.
and so
It also could be a process of us processing
Mm-hmm.
so whatever we're going through.
Right. So a couple other things is gives good counsel based on scripture. I mean, that's the real technical term.
Those are the ones you want your best friends, right?
Right.
Like those are the ones that you're confiding in,
Yeah.
and that way, because I think that's how we're going to grow.
Yep.
Not only as parents, but as our kids. If we're having other students or families that our kids are connected with,
Right.
and they're struggling to do stuff that they don't necessarily want to tell us, but they go to their friend.
Right.
I think that's huge to be able to have biblical counsel.
Yeah. So a couple of other ones is a friend helps in times of trouble. I thought that was, that's true. And then forgives. A friend is always willing to forgive. And so if you have a friend and they're unwilling to forgive you, I don't know, that creates a tough situation. Or a friend that's just like every time you really need help, they're never there. I don't know if that's one of those friends that you really ought to count on, not that they have to just be booted out of your life.
Right.
But again, we're talking about how to cultivate really great friendships that lead us closer to God and lead us in a direction where is healthy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of friends or people in our life that may not do that, may lead us the other way.
And so if you're out there today actually looking to how do I continue, a big idea that we've been talking about in our church life is how do I connect with the people around me that may not know Christ or, that do know Christ. I just want to get to know them better. Just look at that point that you brought up at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That what's one thing that you can connect with them about? So it may be something you find on their wall at their house,
right?
Or something maybe even outside. Like, for example, my neighbor loves his lawn, and he has done so much work to it. And so we just go over there, and we'll just talk about his lawn.
Right.
And it's great because he's telling me about, I planted this. Like, he planted palm trees the other day. And, like, but it's really neat because I'm like, I know that's something that he loves. And I did landscaping for a while, and I love being able to have some fun with that. But just find that commonality, and that's another way we can be evangelistic, but it's also a way that we can connect with other believers. So I think that's a really, really good ideas.
Yeah. So again, remember, be a friend to have a friend, and then you got to be willing to do some of these things, if not all of these things, to have a friend. Be engaged with people, and but if you have a child that's maybe introverted, it's going to be a struggle, and it's going to be something you have to really cultivate in your child. So just as a parent, keep demonstrating, keep talking, keep working on it, and God, I know, is faithful and will use the things that we're doing as parents to bring about friends that influence our child in a positive way. Again, if we keep cultivating it. So as we wrap up today, we want to talk about next week. We are kind of coming to a close. We have just a few more chapters left to go. Hopefully you're reading along with us. But next is chapter 25, Pleasing God with Media and the Arts.
Oh, man.
That sounds like a really interesting chapter. I know each and every one of them, I felt like we said that. Like this is a really interesting chapter coming up next. And it has been. That's what's really been really cool about this book, and that's why we keep promoting it every week. If you don't have a copy of it and here we are at chapter 25, doesn't matter. Pick it up, just start reading a chapter or a few pages or whatever you can do.
That's pretty much what the chapter is. It's only a few pages
long. Because it's been very beneficial, for Patrick and I and our conversations, and we know it would be for you. So again, we hope to see you next week for that chapter. Until then, have a great week.